A confidence vote in British Prime Minister Boris Johnson could be triggered as early as tonight. That's according to a tweet by a Sky journalist who was citing a member of the 1922 committee which oversees such votes. He says the rules of the committee, which currently give Johnson immunity from a confidence vote until next year, are likely be changed this afternoon. Johnson has defied growing calls for him to step down, telling lawmakers on Wednesday he would keep going following a wave of resignations from his government, including those of two key ministers. The exodus was sparked by yesterday's resignations of Finance Minister Rishi Sunak and Health Secretary Sajid Javid. British markets are bracing for more political uncertainty on Wednesday, with investors keen to see if the new finance minister loosens the purse strings. Analysts say markets will struggle until they have a better understanding of the priorities of Nadhim Zahawi, the new finance minister. Now, Johnson, who's clinging to power following the resignation of at least 13 British lawmakers in the last 24 hours, says he has the mandate to keep going, and that's what he's going to do.
The Prime Minister once wrote, "It is a wonderful and necessary fact of political biology that we never know when our time is up." Long after it is obvious to everyone that we are goners, we continue to believe our duty is to hang on to the perks and privileges of our posts. In reality, we are just terrified of the come down. So for the sake of this great country, will the Prime Minister heed the advice of his former self, get over his terror and do the decent thing?
Mr. Speaker, with great respect, I refer the honourable lady to the answer I have just given. When things are tough, of course people turn their fire on the leader of the country, but it is my job to get on and deliver our manifesto, which we are, and to deliver on the mandate on which I was elected, and to get this country through tough times, just as we got it through COVID. And that is what I'm going to do.
Right now, for the latest from the UK, we are now joined by our correspondent, Laura Makin-Isherwood in London. Laura, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Talk to us about the dramatic developments that we are seeing in the UK, and specifically the implications, to the future of Boris Johnson as UK Prime Minister.
Well, those resignations keep on coming. They were triggered, of course, the first ones last night by the Chancellor Rishi Sunak and the Health Secretary Sajid Javid. Sajid Javid said he'd basically lost confidence in the Prime Minister. The Chancellor Rishi Sunak saying that the two men were going at the economy and how that should be tackled and the issues surrounding it by completely different ways. And in the hours that have followed, more and more people, ministers and their aides, have been saying that they also want to resign from their positions. The last one has just been announced. Duncan Baker, he's a parliamentary private secretary in Michael Gove's department. He, of course, is a senior minister and MP himself. That takes the tally now to around 28 people to have resigned, a quite significant amount. And Boris Johnson has been able to replace Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid, the Health Secretary and the Chancellor. But as more and more people are resigning, there's a real question about whether he will find enough people to take up those posts and those spots that have been left by those people. He appeared in Parliament earlier today for Prime Minister's questions. He came out fighting, basically saying that he had done as much as he possibly could to deal with those sexual assault allegations brought against his Deputy Chief Whip, Chris Pincher. That seems to have been triggering this final revolt, it seems, against the Prime Minister's leadership. But Boris Johnson appears to be wanting to continue to hang on, vowing to stay in number 10 despite the turmoil that's taking place around him.
And what can you tell us about, this tweet that is doing the rounds, that, the confidence vote on him could be triggered as early as tonight, according to this member of the 1922 committee, which oversees such votes?
I mean, that would signal that people really are serious about trying to get the Prime Minister out of number 10. Of course, the 1922 committee is a group of Conservative MPs. They come together to discuss issues that the Prime Minister might not always hear from sort of lower members of the House of Parliament, those backbench MPs. And as you've said earlier, they have already held a no confidence vote in the last few weeks, one that Boris Johnson won. That should have left him immune for 12 months from another no confidence vote, but it seems like, as you say, those rules may be changed. We thought it might take weeks, but clearly some ministers believe that it could take now hours to bring those changes into force, and that would then push a new no confidence vote on the Prime Minister. If he lost that, he would be forced to resign his position, to stand aside, and it would trigger a new Conservative Party leadership race. Now, maybe it is that Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid were thinking that that might be on their way. Could it be that they are in fact eyeing up that position themselves? Nothing is clear at the moment. We're having to wait to see how these processes play out, and also how Boris Johnson is feeling, how determined he is to remain in number 10.
Of course, all eyes on those developments. Laura, that's all the time we have for this afternoon. Thank you so much for that update. That's Laura Makin-Isherwood coming to us live there from London.